My name is Adeel, and I've been in a committed relationship with Daniyal for 3 years. He's good to me. He's kind, successful, dependable. Our lives fit together like a cleanly ironed shirt, neat, proper, and entirely predictable. But it's not Daniyal who's been invading my thoughts lately. It's Ehsan. Ehsan is the kind of man you don't just notice. You feel him. Loud laugh, cocky grin, a jawline like it was cut from stone. We met 2 years ago at the gym and somehow became inseparable. Workout buddies, post-workout biryani, Netflix nights. It was easy with him. Dangerously easy. Maybe I should have walked away the first time we shared a bed after a late movie night. He was too lazy to drive back. I had an extra mattress. But instead of sleeping on it, he pulled a blanket over both of us and grinned, shirtless, like it was the most natural thing in the world. It wasn't. I told myself it was nothing. Boys are touchy. Friends cuddle. Maybe that's what I wanted to believe. But it kept happening. The almosts. Almost touching when we squeezed onto a small sofa. Almost kissing during stupid dares and dull cooking contests. Almost losing control every time he said things like, "If I ever switch teams, you're my first pick." He knew. He absolutely knew what he was doing. I told Daniyal about Ehsan early on, of course. I had to. You can't hide a presence that loud. He met him once, didn't like him. Said he was too familiar and not your type of company. I laughed it off. But his words planted guilt in me, guilt I ignored. That guilt turned into tension. Ehsan felt it too, I'm sure. There were nights we lay next to each other, his breathing slow and even, the scent of his skin on the pillow next to mine. Sometimes I imagined turning toward him. Just once. Just to see what would happen if I gave in. But I didn't. Not yet. Then came that weekend at the farmhouse. It was supposed to be a getaway. Me, Ehsan, and a couple of old college friends. Daniyal had a work conference, so I went solo. The first night, most of them got drunk or passed out early. By midnight, it was just me and Ehsan, sitting by the pool, feet in the water, sharing a bottle of cheap wine and darker thoughts. He looked at me, long and quiet, and said, "You ever wonder what your life would be if you weren't trying so hard to be good?" That sentence sat in my chest like a ticking bomb. I tried to laugh it off, but my throat was dry. He didn't say anything more. Just leaned back, eyes on the stars, his fingers brushing mine. Once. Then twice. Then staying there, barely touching, but enough to set fire to every nerve ending I had. I wanted to move. I didn't. I wanted to say, "Don't do that." But I didn't. We went to bed in separate rooms that night, but I barely slept. My skin burned with memory. My body betrayed me. I thought about the way his fingers lingered. About what would have happened if I'd turned my hand over and held his. The next morning, everything was casual. Jokes, tea, hangover groans. But every glance from him felt like a loaded weapon pointed at the part of me I was trying to keep hidden. I think Ehsan knew that I was breaking. That every moment I spent denying what I felt only made me want him more. And the worst part? I didn't feel sorry. Not really. Not yet. That night, we shared a couch again. 2 men, 1 blanket, cold outside. Nothing happened. Nothing explicit. But his thigh pressed against mine and stayed there. His hand brushed my knee, once, lazily. I felt my pulse in my ears. My breath faltered. I couldn't look at him. He didn't say a word. And neither did I. Because we both knew. The line was right there, thin, trembling, begging to be crossed. I told myself it wouldn't happen. That no matter how badly I wanted it, whatever it was, I could control myself. But desire doesn't knock. It slides in, slow and silent. Just like Ehsan's hand did. It was the second night at the farmhouse. The others had left early due to some emergency, and suddenly it was just the 2 of us again, alone in that oversized villa with too many empty rooms and too much quiet. We cooked dinner together. Pasta, badly made. Too much garlic. Too much wine. "You're a terrible chef," I said, laughing as I watched him stir the sauce like he was doing surgery. He grinned. "And you still let me feed you. That's trust." It wasn't trust. It was weakness. Mine. After dinner, the electricity cut out during a rainstorm. Total blackout. We found candles and lit them, the flickering glow bouncing shadows off the walls. Ehsan looked like a myth, bare-chested, candlelight dancing on his skin, sweat on his collarbone from the humidity. "Looks like we're stuck in a 90s romantic drama," he joked, pouring another glass. "Cue the forbidden love scene." I laughed. Too hard. Nervously. I was trying to deflect. Trying to ignore the way he was watching me. We ended up on the couch again. This time no friends, no distractions, no excuses. He sat close. Our knees touched. "Tell me something real," he said suddenly, voice low like a dare. "What do you mean?" "Something you haven't told Daniyal." The mention of Daniyal made my stomach turn. "Why?" "Because I want to know the part of you he doesn't get to see." I opened my mouth, closed it, then said, "Sometimes I imagine kissing you." The silence was immediate, heavy, sharp. I could have stopped it there, could have laughed it off, said I was drunk, joking, dreaming. But I didn't. Ehsan didn't speak. He just reached out and touched my jaw, gently. My eyes closed on instinct. His thumb slid across my cheek like he was memorizing the curve of my face. "I've imagined it too," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "More times than I can count." And then, his hand slid. Down my throat, over my chest, slow and deliberate. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel accidental. I wasn't ready for where it went. His fingers moved lower, past the line of my shirt. My breath caught. My body froze. Every part of me screamed to stop, to move, to say something, but I didn't. I let him. I let him unbutton my shirt. Let his lips find the curve of my shoulder. Let his tongue trace a path down skin that had never been touched by anyone but Daniyal in years. It wasn't just lust. It was release. It was rage at everything I'd been suppressing. It was heat and skin and the unmistakable ache of surrender. "Are you sure?" he whispered, hovering over me. "No," I breathed. "But I'm not saying no." Clothes came off slowly, carefully, like we were peeling away our guilt layer by layer, daring it to stop us. But it didn't. The couch creaked beneath us. My fingers dug into his back. I'd never heard myself make the sounds I made that night, desperate, needy, alive. And God help me, it felt right. I'd spent years building a clean life. Structured, polite, committed. And in 1 hour, I tore it down with a single choice. With a single body. With him. Afterwards, I didn't know what to say. I lay beside him, skin still buzzing, the smell of sweat and regret thick in the air. He turned to face me, eyes soft. "I've wanted this for too long," he said, voice raw. "Even if it ruins everything." I didn't respond. Because deep down, I knew, it already had. I didn't text Daniyal the next morning. I couldn't. I told myself I needed a moment to process things. That lie sat heavier than the weight of Ehsan's body still etched into my skin. I showered twice, scrubbed hard, but the scent of him lingered, his cologne, his breath, his want. Ehsan didn't say much either. We packed our things, drove back to the city in silence. His hand brushed mine on the gear stick once. I flinched. Not because I didn't want it, because I wanted it again, too much. When I got home, Daniyal greeted me with that familiar warmth. He kissed me softly, unaware he was placing his lips on a mouth that had betrayed him less than 24 hours ago. "How was the farmhouse?" he asked. "Quiet," I lied. I hated how easily the falsehood slid out. Smooth. Effortless. Like I'd been practicing. Maybe I had, all along. In the days that followed, guilt moved in like a quiet guest. It rearranged my routines. It stood beside me while I brushed my teeth. It stared back from the mirror while I shaved. It sat between me and Daniyal every time he reached for my hand. Ehsan, on the other hand, was colder now. He wasn't angry. He wasn't clingy. He was distant. Like he'd crossed the line, gotten what he wanted, and returned to his shell. The intimacy we shared felt like a wound only I was bleeding from. I called him. He didn't answer. I sent a message. Can we talk? He replied hours later. What is there to talk about? You made your choice the moment you walked back into his house. That line hit harder than anything Daniyal had ever said to me. I saw Daniyal in bed that night, scrolling through his phone, laughing at some meme, peaceful in a way that made me ache. I crawled in next to him, unsure how I could love someone and still betray them in such an unforgivable way. That was the conflict I couldn't name out loud. I wanted both. Ehsan haunted my thoughts like an itch under the skin. He was chaotic, bold, messy, everything Daniyal wasn't. And maybe that's what scared me. Because with Ehsan, I didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to pretend. But pretending is what I did best. One evening, a week after the farmhouse, Daniyal sat me down. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had noticed the distance. You haven't been yourself, he said. Is there something you're not telling me? I could have denied it. Lied again. But I didn't. I said, there's something I did. Something I can't undo. Daniyal's face changed. He didn't speak. Didn't interrupt. Just listened. I crossed a line with someone. I didn't plan it. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. His silence was deafening. Finally, he whispered, was it him? Ehsan. Daniyal stood up, walked to the window. His shoulders were shaking slightly. Whether it was rage or heartbreak, I couldn't tell. Probably both. I knew something was off, he said, barely audible. I knew it the first time I met him. He didn't yell. Didn't curse. He just looked defeated. You've destroyed us, he said quietly. And I think part of you wanted to. That sentence stayed with me long after he packed a bag and left for his brother's place. That night, I went to Ehsan's. He opened the door wearing sweats, hair messy, eyes unreadable. You told him, he said. I nodded. Ehsan stepped aside, let me in, then leaned against the counter with folded arms. So what now? I didn't know. I didn't come with a plan. All I knew was that I felt hollow. Stripped. I don't want to lose both of you, I admitted. He laughed. Bitter, hard. That's not how this works, Adeel. You don't get to ruin lives and keep the pieces that fit. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every touch. Every kiss. Every moment you let me believe I wasn't just a temporary escape. I felt my chest cave in. I hadn't realized how much he needed to be chosen, not just wanted. I never lied to you, I said quietly. You lied to him, he shot back. That makes everything with me a lie too. I looked at him, really looked, and realized Ehsan wasn't angry because I'd cheated. He was angry because I couldn't let myself choose him fully. I turned to leave. My hand on the doorknob. I'm sorry, I said. And then he asked one final question. Are you sorry it happened, or just sorry you got caught? I had no answer. Because the truth was, I didn't regret the touch. I only regretted the consequences. The days that followed were painfully still. Daniyal stopped replying to my messages. His Instagram turned silent. No stories. No likes. No clues. It was like I'd been deleted from his world in one deliberate swipe. Ehsan didn't reach out either. It was worse than the anger. Worse than the yelling or accusations. It was silence. And silence is where guilt grows teeth. I tried to fill my time, workouts, long drives, mindless scrolling. But nothing dulled the ache. Every song reminded me of Daniyal's laugh. Every smell of Ehsan's skin. Every quiet evening made me wonder if I'd broken two men just to feel something real. One night, I finally drove to Daniyal's place. His brother answered, gave me a long look, then stepped aside. Daniyal was in the living room, folding laundry like it was the only thing keeping his hands from shaking. I'm not here to beg, I said, standing in the doorway like a criminal. I'm here to explain. He didn't look at me. Just kept folding a t-shirt. You already explained, he said flatly. With your actions. I was lost, Daniyal. And I should have come to you instead of him. Instead, you let him touch you. That stopped me cold. Not because it was cruel, because it was true. Do you love him? he asked. The question struck like lightning. I didn't have a ready answer. My heart wanted to say no. But my silence said more. Daniyal finally looked up. His eyes weren't furious, they were tired. That's the part that hurts the most, he said. You didn't just cheat on me. You gave him parts of yourself I begged for. I sat down, fingers clenched. You were safe, I whispered. And I took advantage of that. He nodded slowly, like he'd known that all along. Then he asked something I wasn't expecting. Do you even know what you want, Adeel? Or are you just afraid of choosing? I stared at him. The man who knew every corner of me. The man I hurt. And for the first time, I answered honestly. I want to stop pretending. I want to stop being the man everyone expects me to be. I want to feel real, even if it's messy. Even if it means losing everything I once thought I needed. He took that in, then looked away, lips pressed into a bitter smile. Then go be real, he said. But not with me. And just like that, it was over. The relationship I thought would last forever ended not with screaming, but a soft goodbye. I showed up at Ehsan's the next morning. No warning. No plan. He opened the door, shirtless again, his curls wild from sleep. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I stepped inside. I told him everything, I said. Ehsan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. So what now? You want me to congratulate you for coming clean? No, I said. I want to know if there's still something between us worth saving. He stared at me like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You think I'm your prize for blowing up your relationship? I think you're the person I've been afraid to choose. Ehsan exhaled sharply, dragging a hand down his face. I don't want to be your rebound, Adeel. You're not, I said firmly. You're the only one who's ever seen the mess I am, and still wanted more. The room went quiet. He stepped closer, eyes searching mine. You're sure this isn't guilt talking? I'm sure, I whispered. His hand brushed my chest, right where his touch had first changed everything. And then, slowly, he pulled me in. This time, it wasn't desperate. It wasn't rushed or stolen. It was full of everything we'd been too afraid to admit out loud. And for once, I didn't feel like I was betraying anyone. I felt like I was finally choosing myself. Weeks passed. Healing didn't come all at once. Daniyal and I didn't become friends. We weren't meant to. But Ehsan, he stayed. We took it slow. No labels. No pressure. Just honesty. He still made terrible pasta. Still teased me too much. But now, when he touched me, it wasn't in secret. It wasn't a sin. It was home. And sometimes, when we lay together, skin to skin, I'd whisper into the dark. I felt your hand slide that night, and it wrecked everything I thought I wanted. He'd kiss me then, smile against my lips and say, "Good."